How are we doing today, everybody? And welcome back to another video of Cubs Daily. My name is Steven Ryan. We've been posting for the past few weeks, bringing you all of the fun topics about the Chicago Cubs, from roster moves to lineup changes and all of that good stuff. Make sure you guys are locked into Cubs Daily. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below your thoughts on Kyle Tucker this spring. Are his struggles or a concern to you? Are you excited to see him in Wrigley this year? Let me know in the comment section below. But let's start off today's video, ladies and gentlemen, with Pete Crow Armstrong. And as you can see by the title, how many days in a row am I going to talk about this young man? Because he has been on an absolute tear this spring. Yesterday, he hit two home runs, including an absolute mammoth grand slam, and he went to left center field with it. He pulled the first one, and then even the day before that, he scored from second base on a wild pitch. The dude is absolutely crazy skilled, crazy fast, and honestly, I gave you guys the bet a few weeks ago for 60 stolen bases. Those odds have gone down to plus 1,000, so make sure you jump on that before it gets even lower than that, because I genuinely believe we are going to have a special season from Pete Crow Armstrong. I just can't emphasize this enough. Even if you're not a big analytics person, or you're not into WAR or any of that other stuff, he had a 2.7 WAR pretty much just defensively last year. He only hit 237. He wasn't really, showing that growth at the plate. But then the back half of last year, his numbers started to uptick. He looked more confident, and he started creating chaos on the base pass. And that is exactly what PCA brings to this Cubs team, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of potential, a lot of flair, and honestly, it's like a Javi Baez switch, basically, which is who we traded for Pete Crow Armstrong. So, love to see the energy. Love to see him bring it back to the ballpark, and I am excited to watch Pete Crow Armstrong play for the Chicago Cubs this year. And the more he continues to do this spring and into the regular season, the more he's going to be right here on Cubs Daily. No doubt about it. The kid is absolutely electric, and I hope FanDuel puts up some MVP odds, because I might have to sprinkle a little bit. Going to be really tough, but either way, Pete Crow Armstrong has been absolutely incredible for the Cubs this spring. I am just hoping, and I am expecting that to continue as well. Moving on, though, from PCA being electric to Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker has not had the best spring training start this year. We are not going to deny that here. But just like we have in the reverse with Milton Bradley, I think Kyle Tucker is going to be just fine. He's just getting warmed. It's spring training. You're supposed to go get all the cobwebs off your off-season swing, all that good stuff. But let's take a look at a couple of the numbers for Kyle Tucker this spring. To be fair, this does feel alarming, as he's only had about 20 plate appearances. He has a 0 batting average. He has 0 hits. He has a sacrifice fly for an RBI. No home runs, obviously. You can't have a home run if you don't have a hit. And his on base, I said on base plus slugging, but his on base is only 174. So, again, I'm not too concerned. I'm never, ever too concerned with spring training. I'm fairly certain Kyle Tucker is going to just do A-okay at Wrigley this year. And honestly, in a contract year, I'm expecting a pretty special season from the guy as well. Kyle Tucker is one of the best players in all of baseball. And the Cubs basically flipped Chris Morel into Kyle Tucker. And that is one of the more bona fide stud moves by Jed Hoyer during this time, ladies and gentlemen. It might actually be his best work. I'm not even going to deny that. Chris Morel, who I loved, by the way, obviously it just wasn't working out at third base for him. But, you turn him into Isaac Paredes, then you can tell the Astros that, hey, Paredes is a dead pull hitter who loves that little corner box in Houston. Perfect. And then Kyle Tucker, obviously, they were maybe not interested in extending him on a long-term deal because he is going to be getting a lot of money. I'm not sure if it's going to be from the Cubs, ladies and gentlemen, but it's going to be from somewhere. No doubt about that. So, I understand. You want to see your best players hit. You want to see them hit well all the time. But we all know baseball, ladies and gentlemen. It's a game of ebbs and flows. He's going to have good days, good weeks, good months. He's going to have bad days, bad weeks, bad months. It's just how much does he mitigate them? I would much rather him struggle in the spring than him not struggle in October. You know what I'm saying? So, Kyle Tucker, I'm not worried about in the spring personally. Now, if this is continuing in May, let's have a conversation about it then. But as for sits right now, Kyle Tucker's going to be fine. This Cubs offense should be much better going forward, especially with him batting third and allowing the other guys like Seiya, Dansby, Nico, Ian to see much more different pitches. So, the other day the Cubs also shaved down their spring training roster, ladies and gentlemen. They cut 11 players, aka they sent them down to minor league camp. The roster stands at 42. There are some notable names, but there's not too many notable names. It's kind of understandable everything that has happened here for the Cubs this spring so far. So a lot of pitchers went back. They signed Chris Flex into a minor league deal this offseason. They are sending him back to the minors. Ethan Roberts, Luke Little hasn't even had a chance to pitch this spring, so obviously I don't think he's going to make the major league roster right off rip. But this is excellent pitching depth for the Cubs, just in case an injury does come about for them. The most notable name in this group, though, is James Triantos. He is a top 10 Cubs prospect, and I will say this as well. James, he's going to be part of that logjam situation we talked about a few episodes ago, right? Will he be traded? Will he be a part of the trade package? I'm guessing yes, because we already have Nico and Dansby. Dansby's going to be at shortstop for another 4 years unless we move him. And Nico, who we already might be considering moving, will be replaced by Matt Shaw there, if anything. So James is being sent back down to minor league. He's going to get the look at AAA. I do expect the AAA Cubs to have an absolutely stellar season this year. So if you're in Iowa by any chance, you want to go see some of the young Cubs, go check them out. I know Jordan Wicks is going to start down there as well. And Ben Brown had a strong outing the other day, striking out 5 as well. So Cubs are down to 42. There's a couple more players they are going to remove from the 40-man roster. And then we'll be down to 40, and then we'll see who makes the main 25-man roster. And those 25 guys are going to compete for this right here. The Cubs World Series odds. What are the odds to win it all? And is it worth the sprinkle? Okay, the Cubs are going to be long shots in this situation because you got a lot of great teams out there, right? You got the Dodgers, you got the Yankees, you got the Phillies, you got the Braves, the Mets, who just had a big offseason signing a bunch of people. So lots of different potential there for the Cubs on that front. Let's take a look at some of those odds, ladies and gentlemen. These odds are presented by FanDuel. Now, a few weeks ago, when I told you guys to hop on the Cubs over-under win total at 83.5. Look at those odds now. It's jumped to 86.5. The fans are hammering this, ladies and gentlemen. They're hammering this. 83.5 was a deal. 86.5, I still think is a good deal. I think the Cubs are good enough to do that. But that task is only becoming heavier and heavier. To make the playoffs, only minus 170. Again, with those 3 wild cards, a lot more is possible. The Central is minus 105, so, again, the Central is much more wide open this year, in my opinion, but maybe, the Cubs and the Brewers, and apparently the Reds, who are supposed to be back this year, are, competing for that Central title. Now, let's get to the NL pennant, right? They're going to have to beat some really good teams. The Mets, the Dodgers, the Braves, the Phillies, etc., etc. I have the Cubs 5th of the ranking of those teams. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen? This is baseball. You never really know what's going to happen in October. If the Cubs can come in hot, boom. That's all you need. The Mets come in slumping by any capacity, the Cubs can take them out. If any of those teams come in and they are struggling by any means, the Cubs can beat them. But the same goes for the inverse. It's baseball. It's not an exact science. It's not like the NBA where if you have one of the top 5 players, you're going to the world, the championship. Or like the NFL, if you have one of those top 5 quarterbacks, you're probably going to the Super Bowl as well. So lots of different possibilities here. Cubs plus 3,000 to win the World Series. $10 turns it into 300. If you want to say, hey, well, why not, right? Why not? If you believe the Cubs are going to go all the way this year, I would say do it. I personally am not going to do it. because I think this is more of a growth year for the Cubs. I think this is the year we go to the playoffs, and then we kind of see where we stack up against everybody else. And then next offseason, we might make a big-time move or two to see what this Cubs scheme can truly do. So that's going to do it for me in this video, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said below, comment down below what your thoughts on Kyle Tucker's struggles are this season, and let's have a good one.